Hello everyone, with you as always TimFilm, and in this video we're going to take apart the movie Cars 3. It's a very interesting movie and it really impressed me, so enjoy the movie and let's go. If you've been watching my stuff for a while, you know that I've never been a Cars hater. It's not my favorite movie of all time or anything by a long shot, but I found the first one pleasantly passable, most likely due to childhood car trips driving through vistas that looked exactly like this. And yet Cars wasn't the worst, because it wasn't, but in essence I agree that well, they may not be the most disappointing of Pixar's movies, because seriously, how good did you expect two movies called Cars to be? But they are. The weaker of Pixar's movies, with the least interesting stories and the least interesting characters, and that doesn't mean I was looking forward to a third one more than anyone else. But this time something weird happened. Pixar suddenly dropped a super dramatic teaser of lightning supposedly getting into a crash, and suddenly everyone cared about Cars 3, 4, about 5 hot seconds before the longer trailer dropped and we saw that he was fine. I guess there might have been some ambiguity as to when in the movie the crash might have happened, but that's all. In the movie, the crash might have happened, but since Pixar isn't one of those studios known for, how shall we put it, blatant spoilers. If I have trailers, it was pretty sure that if they were going to reveal that, it would happen at the beginning. And yeah, sorry to ruin it for you guys, but no, the crash happens at the beginning. And no, lightning doesn't die. In fact, 5 minutes after the crash happens, everyone kind of forgets it happened, because the story isn't about lightning getting over an injury, like a certain movie reviewer who recently injured her ankle in a car crash. It's about how, even before the crash, lightning is being passed by new, technologically advanced rookie racers, and whether it's time for him to retire, old men feeling irrelevant, and the rise of the new generation or technology. Isn't that the standard demographic pandering premise number 5 between the chosen one and the supernatural threesome? But seriously, the only thing missing is that Lightning doesn't have a teenage daughter for one of the younger guys he's dated. So yeah, again the Cars franchise gives us a very familiar story that reinforces that Pixar just really doesn't seem to try that hard with these movies. But then again, Cars, I really think that these movies just exist for the guys in the studio to just play around with and have something that says a little less pressure than the usual stuff they work on. That said, it's still a Pixar movie and Cars 3 is still a Pixar movie. A pretty good movie, not great but good. In fact, it's more than likely the best of all the Cars movies because Lightning is the most sympathetic and likable he's ever been, which tends to happen with what's now an underdog story. And I know I give movies a lot of crap for being predictable and formulaic, and that's just it happens that Pixar is also really good at filmmaking and framing and animation and character and timeless, natural sounding, not obnoxious dialogue in making us care about characters, which is more than can be said for others. And this movie, even more than other Pixar movies, is about feelings and characters talking about feelings, and I like movies that talk about feelings, but I have to admit it's pretty light on comedy, mostly focused on the problems of an underdog, and it's mostly focused on the problems of an underdog. And this movie, even more than other Pixar movies, is about feelings and characters talking about feelings, and I like movies that talk about feelings, but I have to admit, it's pretty light on comedy, and mostly focused on the problems of an aging racer talking about how he's irritated by technology and young people. There's almost nothing for kids here, they must be so bored. And according to a lot of reviewers, a lot of kids were. I mean, personally, I don't really care if it's not funny, I got my silliness quota. Okay, hold on. Did you remember to subscribe to the channel? Oh yeah, and like it, and now we can move on. From Captain Underpants, and I'll probably get it again from another sequel coming up that nobody asked for. It's just so weird to have this super serious, depressingly toned movie out of Cars, the movie franchise that basically exists to sell merchandise to children. You almost wonder if maybe they made this movie to save the negative reputation of the Cars franchise. And since this movie is basically a sequel to the first one, it basically kind of ignores that the second movie ever happened, which I'm sure people will be happy to do, but this is really. And yeah, about this sequel, at first it's kind of hard to get on board with this whole aging racer angle when Lightning looks exactly the same as he did in the first movie when he was a rookie, and even though this is a good version of this familiar story, there are still some things they could have done to make it better. Like the big hook in this movie is that Lightning finds himself in the same position as Doc Hudson in the first movie. In fact, this whole movie is basically one giant love letter to Doc Hudson's character. And that's easily the most touching, wonderful part of the movie, and I love it. It's just kind of weird, like we have to pay tribute to the greatest Pixar character of all time. I mean, I know he was played by Paul Newman, but it wasn't his greatest character either, but as a symbolic tribute to mentors and role models in general. Yeah, it was actually pretty moving. Wait, we talked about bad things, but what? What would have really brought this full circle is if at any point Lightning had realized that his new young rival Jackson Storm is the same arrogant, disrespectful tool that he was in the first movie when he was a rookie. Bringing together the angle that this generation war doesn't really mention that often, you know that for all the hate that always gets hurled at young people for ruining everything, the older generation at one point were themselves the young people ruining everything for another older generation. What talking? Pictures, but all those rich silent actors will lose their jobs cause those young people for wanting to hear human voices, but no, Lightning never realizes this. He does the next best thing in developing his bond with Cruz, his young trainer, and that is really the best part of the movie, and they do provide a decent dialogue between the generations, but still Jackson Storm remains the one-dimensional jerkwad he was presented as in the trailer, and I think that was a real missed opportunity. And then Nathan Fillion's character, who would normally be the villain in these kinds of situations, but he's just presented as a well-meaning pragmatist at first. But then in the third act, he has to be turned into some kind of villain, because I guess you can't know if what you're doing is right unless someone tells you that you're doing it wrong. Yeah, I know I've been ragging on this movie a lot, even though I still stand by it, but overall it's a good movie, and you should check it out if you're curious. And if you're on the fence about it, I'll do it. Also throw in that the Pixar short before this is probably one of my favorites. It's funny, emotional, physically and visually fascinating, but I think it's just that I still acknowledge that Pixar shouldn't have wasted their time on this again. You creators make amazing movies. You do what you need to do to keep the studio running, even if it's making a blatant cash grab every once in a while, fine, but even for our movie, which was primarily made for merchandising, I don't think you intended this to be the least domestically successful Pixar movie, which I'm pretty sure came as a surprise to absolutely no one else. I guess the saving grace is at least this isn't the only Pixar movie coming out this year, you know, after we enjoy everything else this year has to throw at us. Huh. You know, come to think of it, one of the things people usually use to defend the first Cars movie is that it came out in 2006, which was a really underwhelming movie year in general, but animation. And then 2011, when Cars 2 came out, definitely was. Except for the obvious, and then this year, yeesh, we need to stop making Cars movies just so they stop predicting underwhelming movie years. Thanks for watching this episode to the end. Leave your thoughts on the movie in the comments, and see you in the next video.